Well, MJ, I just want to thank you for coming onto the podcast. I hope this goes better than the last time we tried to record one.
Yeah. Let's just say, when I got invited to the Throwing Mold podcast, let's just say it makes you a little nervous when you have likes such as the Great Fanatic.
Mhm.
Really? I'm supposed to follow the Fanatic?
You can't follow the
Yeah, I'm a little
fanatic.
nervous.
Yeah, it's a bit nerve wracking. This is a high tier show. We've got the top of the top guests. We have such classics as Figglebottom and maybe Figglebottom again. We don't know, but thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that our schedules worked out this time where we can actually record and actually just
No, yeah,
sit down and just chill, and have a little chat.
it was a bit of a nightmare getting this all sorted because people live in different regions. I don't need to tell you about not everybody's in one tri-state area, time zones
Different
and everything.
regions.
Yeah,
Different regions, 12-hour day work shifts on my end and stuff
yeah,
like that.
no
So it's
hour day
like,
work shifts on my end, so it's just no. But thank you for coming on. I do want to talk about kind of how you got started in the mod tools, because you're one of the oldest people in the community that I know. You've been here like the longest. I think before that it was Madgaz, and he had just started with Black Ops 3, and you've been here since World at War.
yeah, I was around that time. I don't want to take that title of being like one of the oldest. I did do stuff on World at War, and I'm a little bit of an old head, I guess you would say,
Oh
as far
yeah,
as
you
like
got
the
unk
tools
status.
to be cringy. But it's quite great to be part of, something that was in the beginning like quite a good bit of people. Really great, amazing, like talented people back in the World at War days that, just didn't really carry over into the Black Ops 3 scene.
Mhm.
I did come in towards the tail end of the World at War tools, but to be able to have that title of like, yeah, I'm familiar with doing stuff on World at War, and I have this huge thing with all these maps and stuff on Black Ops 3, and it's great. It's great to be able to be on both.
Well, when starting out on World at War, did you find it a difficult transitioning from being like a custom zombies player to actually making custom maps themselves?
Not incredibly difficult. Really just kind of like looking at official maps and looking at people's custom maps, you just kind of look at them and see like what would you bring to the table, you know?
Mhm.
And you just kind of look at things and just see like how you would want to do things, like how you would just want to take your direction for just the general map style, what's going on in the maps, maybe even like what the zombies look like, something like that. There's just so many different custom things that you can do with custom zombies that just is super, super intriguing. And, every few months or maybe even every few weeks, maybe right now, maybe like every few months, I think it's getting a little bit slower, but it's just like these huge projects come out from
Mhm.
people, and sometimes it could be like really big surprises, and to just see how people make different things in different ways that's just completely out of the norm is just so inspiring and like it's so cool to see people's like creativity just kind of not just like on paper but physically like within something like custom zombies.
Yeah.
And I think it's a perfect outlet to be able to like express yourself with, like, if you're a fan of zombies,
Mhm.
what would you personally want to do? What would you want out of a zombies map,
Evil Dead. I want Evil
Right.
Dead.
Right. You know what I want? I want an Army of Darkness. I
Oh
think that
no,
would be a
no, no,
perfect
no,
map.
no, no, no. Hey, hey now. That doesn't come out until tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah,
Thomas,
tomorrow.
tomorrow never comes.
Well, you have a lot of influences from outside of zombies with the maps that you've made. If we're talking like the conclusion, with Evil Within, or if we're talking like Terrifier with the Terrifier movies, what kind of motivates you to find these specific games or other movies to influence your maps?
So really they just kind of come naturally. I never kind of like think, "Oh, I want to make another map. What can I make this map about?" Really the maps come to me.
Mhm.
As weird as that sounds. Something big like whatever I'm really like interested in, or maybe something that's coming out within media that I'm invested in or interested in, or somewhat maybe even my content like relates to. I can kind of pursue that and look at the best approach that I can make a map out of it.
Mhm.
So like Terrifier, I made that based on the maze that's on the back of Art the Clown's cereal box. I saw that in like Spirit Halloween, or maybe it was on Twitter or something like that, like Spirit Halloween's Twitter or
Mhm.
something like that, like a decoration. And I was like, yup, I think I'm gonna have to make another maze map and it's gonna be Terrifier themed. And I think I made that maze like quick, but I actually shelved it. That map was actually not even gonna come out. Like,
Really?
um, yeah, it got put on the back burner. I just didn't really feel like at the time that people would have wanted it, and I just personally wasn't feeling it too.
Mhm.
And but then, I just had like a huge burst of like inspiration not long ago, and I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna do this." You know?
Time to finish this one.
Right, right.
Sparks of ideas, they're really hard to come by. I'm such a little art house film nerd. I'll listen to like David Lynch, who's a big director who passed away recently, R.I.P. the goat. And he'll
Mhm.
talk about just meditating and finding ideas, and I try to do that. And I wouldn't say it works. It hasn't worked for me, but it seems to work for him just fine. But I'm more in line with like you, where you're just like, I don't know. I'll be sitting on the toilet and then something will just like pop into my brain. I'm like, that's a good idea for a room, or that's a good, Easter egg idea. Let me put that in the map.
Mhm.
Now, with your maps, you have just a bunch of them. I'm very jealous because you know me. I've got the one fucking map so far, but you've just got pages on pages. I think your Steam Workshop is currently at 5 pages right now. Holy
Mhm.
guacamole! You're a workaholic. Could you
That's
walk?
what's public.
Yeah, that's what's public. Okay, well if I released all the maps that I have, it might get to
Oh,
two
goodness.
pages.
Yeah.
You have a very unique style with your maps, as in some of them are kind of a little bit more open areas like traditional zombies maps, and others are like mazes. And now you talked about how you took inspiration from the maze on the art cereal box. What is kind of like the typical workflow when you design a map that's in more of that maze format? Do you kind of have a rough outline of where I want players to take this path to go over here, or is it more freehand?
So with something like that, especially like a maze map,
Mm,
you have to look at all of your features that you're gonna have within the map, whether it be like the perks, the mystery box, weapon wall buys, something like that. And you just gotta perfectly like even maybe not even perfectly, I don't know about perfect, but like you gotta just space everything out to the point where it feels like it would be natural. You don't want too much together in one area. Like you don't want too many perks in one spot, something like that. A method that I go by is if I'm standing at one perk, I don't want to be seeing another perk, if that makes sense. And that's what I really tackled with Terrifier. And in that map, even though it's a smaller maze compared to maybe something like Overlook, I did the same thing in Overlook where I doubled the amount of, well, I doubled the perks that are in the map. So each machine has two machines on what would be the opposite side of the map. What I did with that is so to make it maybe a little bit more confusing since it's a maze, to make you think like, oh, okay, I'm back at Quick Revive, but really you're away from spawn. You're actually on the opposite side of the map, you know? And it's just the flow, you know? You have to look at what you have and where you're gonna put it, and then, you know, then you have your Easter egg stuff, and you don't want too much stuff in one spot as well for that. So you have to take everything into account.
When you're making kind of like Easter eggs and stuff like that, do you focus more on like gameplay, like where stuff is going to be, how is it going to affect progression throughout the map, or do you focus more on narrative? Or is it kind of like this, you're thinking about the gameplay and the narrative that you're telling at the same time?
I suppose it would be probably about like a middle ground of both. Like Conclusion 2 was very much a map that was not supposed to exist. Because at the end of Conclusion 1, you know, at the end, they talk about going to Storage of the Dead. And that's where it's supposed to go, right? But surprise, in Conclusion 2, you're in another Evil Within area, like you're still trapped in there. But, you know, at the end of the map, that's when you actually physically go to there instead of just talking about it. So there's ways to visually tell your story. Also, oh, this is a good point to point out. The you know, like the TVs that set up in Conclusion 2 where it shows like a vision of whatever character is talking.
Oh, yeah.
For each of the different segments, whether it be like Jack Torrance is sitting at the bar or Zerg is talking, you know, to the players or something. But that's weird. That's weird that there's not a Toy Story map. So how is Toy Story part of that? I don't know. That's weird.
Little tease, little tease.
Maybe
You're
not. Maybe
such
not. I don't
you're
want to
such
promise
a man
anything.
of secrets. Fanatic and I talk
Am
about it all
I?
the time. Yeah, you never say anything. You're always keeping your secrets down. Every time we're doing one of your maps and we're trying to do the Easter egg, you're like, I don't know. Like, come on, bro, help us out. So it's cool to get a little tease, maybe a future map in the Toy Story realm.
I to be honest, I would love to do a Toy Story map. Just to kind of touch on it, the reason why I haven't done a Toy Story map is just because it has to be perfect. I'm a very much perfectionist when it comes to the big things that I'm interested in, whether it be, you know, like Terrifier. I think that came out the way it should have, right?
Right.
Toy Story is like huge to me. Like that's like my thing. When people think of Toy Story, like my friends or family, you know, they'll be like hitting me up. Like if any kind of like news or anything like that comes out, they'll be like sending me messages, be like, did you, you know, something like that. But it, you know, it just has to be perfect. And something to make it work within zombies is kind of hard to do because I don't want to be like killing the toys, if that makes sense. That's just not something that's like in my radar of wanting to do. I'm trying to find like a balance in there for that. I will say that Toy Story will be included in a upcoming map
Oh,
pretty heavily, I would like to
okay.
say. That is a guaranteed, and it is a guaranteed map that is coming out. It's not Dead Mall. It's not Dead Mall. It's not part of Dead Mall. There might be toys. There is definitely stuff in Dead Mall that's Toy Story, but this big inclusion of Toy Story is not. It's not the Dead Mall stuff that I'm talking about, but there is something big. So at least I did find a balance with this particular map,
Mhm.
and in the future, when we get to that point, you know, you'll definitely know. You'll be like, this is what he was talking about.
I take it we're not gonna learn any new information about this upcoming map of yours.
I don't want to give it away. Uh, I don't want to say anything specific, but it was a previously announced map. I'll say as far as that it's
Okay.
included on a previously announced map, and you can look at what maybe we'll say like what maps are in active development, and you can kind of figure it out there.
Well, the map that I'm most looking forward to, as you know, is Dead Mall.
Yeah.
This map has eluded me for quite some time. I keep asking this asshole. I'm like, "Hey MJ, when can I playtest Dead Mall?" And he's like, "Never. You will never play this map."
Me and Fnatic played through the Easter egg the other day.
You guys are a bunch of fucking a-holes. I hate the
Hey, he
both of
wasn't
you.
around. We haven't. I think I told you. I was like, hey, we're playing. I
I'm
might not have said like, I might not have said, hey, do you want to join it? But I think I said something like, hey, we're playing.
you know my unemployed
um,
ass is always busy. Is there any like new information you'd like to share about Deadmall, or are we gonna have to wait for that?
yeah, like I don't mind talking about it. Dead Mall is such a huge passion project. Like if there ever was a map of mine that would ever and will ever be the thing that I hope that I'm known for in the future,
Mhm.
or you know, the thing that people think of, it definitely is like an internal joke where it's like, you know, like kind of like what you said, like everybody's like, "Where's Deadmall? What's up with Deadmall? Hello, Deadmall. Why are you releasing this? Where's Deadmall?" You know, um, we even went to not to get too off topic, but I went to the Zombie Championship
Oh,
a few years
ZWC.
ago in Vegas. Yeah, it was in Vegas,
Mm.
and I can't tell you how many creators was like, "So what's going on with Deadmall? How's Deadmall coming?" And I'm like, "Ah, here we go." I really hope that I didn't come off as rude to them. I had always felt like I came off as rude, like because I was playing into the joke and acting
Mhm.
like I was being like sarcastic and stuff. Um, but I think they were genuinely like, "Yeah, so how's Deadmall? You know, how's that coming? Where's Deadmall at?" But yeah, like you said, anything new to talk about? It is totally fully in active development. I'm actively reaching out to different people with help on different features that have to be in the map. This is some of the stuff that I've had my eyes on for many years with this map. Funny enough, you know, we were talking the other day. This map, the earliest file that I have for the map file was 9 years ago, I
Oh
think in like
yeah.
September, which I think is when the mod tools came out. Because the very first thing that I attempted was Deadmall, ironically, when the tools dropped. Because I've talked about this a lot. You know, before the real what Dead Mall, the real mall of Dead Mall, before it was demolished, I went in, took pictures, videos of everything within the mall just to, with the intention of making it a map. And I believe actually at this time, when I was doing that, I was watching countless videos from probably Jaybird, Mad Gaz. You know, I was watching all of their like early stuff that they were working on and doing way back in the day because they had like early access to the tools, you
Mhm.
know? I was incredibly jealous. I'm gonna be totally real. but I was mentally preparing, you know. I was getting
Mhm.
ready for when those tools dropped. I was like, I want to do something. I want to do something that's not Labyrinth. The first release cannot be Labyrinth. It cannot be a Labyrinth remaster. Ironically, I think it was as far as maps go, which is hilarious.
Yeah, first map, I think it was the default World at War map. I think that was your first map, and then second one was a Labyrinth remake.
Ah, so at least it wasn't the first. I stood by my thing. It can't be the first. But as far as what I can say off the top of my head with it, there is technical issues, which there's always been technical issues with Deadmau5. Deadmau5 has been the absolute most challenging thing that I've ever done and probably will ever do as far as
Mhm.
this modding journey that we are all on. It's been quite a challenge, let me tell you. And you know my struggles. You hear me complaining about everything that goes wrong.
I wanna ask if you'd like to disclose some of these challenges that you've been facing during the map's development.
Yeah, so unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately because it's quite a big bummer. It's my current hurdle that I'm trying to get past. The lighting has completely broken where it just doesn't look the same now.
Mhm.
So I'm having to backtrack a good bit and I'm having to if you're unfamiliar, there's these ball things that you can drop in the map creator called a reflection probe. And what this is, you can attach it to the walls and this tells it to light this particular room like properly, right? So I'm currently having to redo all of those for
Oh.
every hallway, every big area, every little thing that is in a playable space.
Mhm.
There needs to be proper lighting for a map to look right, right? The easy part about mazes and stuff like that, usually I can cheat the system and get away with very, very few. But something very complex like Dead Mall that's got a bunch of like it's not so it's not so blocky. It's very it's more complex. I guess is the best way I can
Mhm.
just leave it on there. I'm gonna try and reach out to some people and see about if we can get back to a previous how I had it before, because how I had it when me and Fnatic actually played it
Mhm.
is like the perfect ideal lighting state or lighting anything. My vision for what the map was supposed to look like lighting wise. It was in that build and it's just kind of gone. But do not fret because hurdles can be jumped over eventually. It might take some struggle, but another big issue is for some reason wall buys, which is so
Oh, yeah.
random to the unfamiliar, but wall buys will completely break the map. So what Fnatic is doing for me, he is making a brand new script for the wall buys to it's like a rework, but it's going to be exactly like how wall buys work normally.
Mhm.
But they're not going to be like on a struct, or maybe there are. I'm not sure. I don't even know at this point. Everything's just kind of like hit me all at once with it. But this was like just when we started putting those in is when the lighting broke.
Mhm.
But so wall buys are currently working. We're getting that going to where they're a bit more natural to the standard how wall buys should be. Trying to think of like other issues.
Well, the map's been worked on for quite some time. I think you said 9 years was the original start of the map, and then you've been working on it on and off ever since. Do you remember any instances, and this doesn't have to be with Dead Mall particularly, where you've just had like very significant failures and you just had to completely scrap or alter the concept of a map?
I guess I can talk about something that is unfortunate. because I think a little bit of people were excited for this concept, and it is something that I actually I don't really foresee like going back to. It's quite unfortunate. Flipside 2
Oh,
was
flip
a
side
map that
too.
was I even announced it. This is so bad. This is so bad. I announced the map and everything. I put out two trailers, two little teaser trailers, talking about the map. I even did logos and everything for the map as well. So I had this whole thing planned out for that map. Had a whole storyline in mind, and I started working on like getting the map putting the map together. And after actually like working on it and like seeing just it together, I just started just not feeling it at all. And it just kind of just not, it didn't really align with anything that I just wanted to put out.
Mhm.
It just felt like I was just making it just to make it. Um, and this is not the same thing that I felt with like Conclusion 2. That was a whole different feeling. Like that felt, I, like I did not intend to make a Conclusion 2,
Mhm.
but it felt right. I did not feel the same with Flipside 2, and it was quite unfortunate because I truly feel bad that I announced that that was going to come out and that it was in development. And then it's like after actually like working on it, I was like, no, the whole the initial concept of the storyline was going to be something about, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's a white bear that's like he has different face plates that open. His name is Funtime Freddy. Um, this whole storyline was going to be about him,
Mm.
and you were going to be like repairing him. That's how like you turn the power on. And I think he was gonna like assist you throughout just the whole experience or something like that.
Mhm.
But like I said, when I just started like really getting into it, and then just kind of like the ideas just kind of fell off. I was reaching out to people to find like voice actors for things, and just was not having any luck whatsoever. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of all fell apart. It just didn't work out anymore.
Yeah, it sucks when that happens. Like I've definitely had a few times where I'm, working on something like a new map and I'm just like this isn't working. Like I think one time I was working on like a Ghostbusters map for a bit. I was like this is just not
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah, I had like the outline of the fire station. I was like this is going to be amazing. And as I
Oh,
was making
man.
it, I was like this doesn't this doesn't really work as a zombies map.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part. Like, you have to ultimately, since it's a zombies mode, you have to kind of think about how is this going to be a round-based experience type
Right.
thing?
I think Evil Dead went through three, not Evil Dead. Army of Darkness went through three variations where I was just changing layouts of like the base shape of the castle, and I could never find something that really worked because I was like, yes, this is more screen accurate, but gameplay wise, it sucks. And
Mhm.
it's always difficult to find that right balance when you get into like these creative blocks or periods in time where you're just kind of like doubting yourself and being like, oh fuck, this won't work. I gotta cancel Flipside 2. Is there any way you can kind of like come out of that? What is your process of just kind of breaking out of that cycle?
So what I do, it's probably not the best idea. If I'm wanting to keep progressing on a particular map that I'm having a lot of issues on, I just need to kind of take a step back, and maybe chill, just play some games for a little while. Just kind of get away from the computer and just kind of reboot your mind,
Mm-hmm.
reboot your headspace. I think is a better way to phrase it.
Oh, that sounds very healthy.
Yeah. And you know, some cases it just like Black Ops 6 came out, and I thought that I was still going to be like heavily modding during even when Black Ops 6 came out, but just before Black Ops 6 came out, I was having a lot of modding issues to the point where I was just so frustrated and fed up, and I was just like, it was putting me in a very bad like mind, like a mental state
Mhm.
where I was just feeling so stressed out about different things just not working. And I was like, man, like Black Ops 6 is coming out in a few days, and I'm I'm struggling with this, and I'm gonna have to be working on it when Black Ops 6 comes out. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna I'm just gonna take a break from modding for just a little while, and I wanna just grind camos or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I normally do. Like I'm not one to grind camos on every single gun type thing, but after I grinded all the camos and got like I think it's Nebula. I think I got Nebula on all of the base guns and melee weapons and stuff, and then I came back to modding and picked it right back up and got it rolling. I think right after I came back with that was when I picked up Terrifier and
Mhm.
just got that right on out, and I think it came out pretty well. But yeah, you have to be in a good mind space for something like this, because it could take hours and days to make really anything. You could make a box map and it could still take you days to work on it till you're like satisfied, you
Mhm.
know?
Oh, 100%. I really relate. Just like you spending days on just like a single room and it's not coming together how you see it, and then you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna go get some headshots of multiplayer for 6 days. Right. It's like it's I think clearing your head and taking a step back when you do get in these ruts, it can really help. I want to go back a little bit. Let's go back in time, if you will, to Labyrinth and the beginnings of Labyrinth and World at War. What was kind of like that main idea and inspiration where that map came from?
Really, it just kind of came to me where I was wanting to make a map for NGT Zombies Spider Bite. I wanted to see them, him and Hypermole. I wanted to see them play something that I made. I wanted to hear my name come up at the start of the video. I want to hear
Mm,
like this map was made by MJPW Gaming, you know. Um and just you know, that was like the main thing where I was like, I could make a map. And then what was like hitting me where I was like, uh what I wanted to do was just like a maze, because I love mazes. Uh, I don't know if that's obvious, but I love mazes. And that was like the big thing and why I got started into there.
oh yeah, I definitely I think it's one of the most fun maps of yours that I played because it's got the Cell 3 cauterizer. At least the Black Ops 3 version does. And that's my favorite gun in all of zombies. So you give me a map with that, and already it's in like the upper echelon of maps. I think it was in Labyrinth that you began the story that you've been kind of working on. I not the ultimate. And I think at a time it was the ultimate, if I'm correct.
I believe so. I think the intention of that version of Labyrinth, I think it wasn't. I don't know. I'm gonna be totally honest. I don't know. I mean, I'm going map for map and deciding on things. But stuff definitely did get retconned. Like a few months ago, or maybe even sometime last year. Actually, I went and did a little update patch for Townhouse Z, just to retcon some of the stuff that the ultimate says in that map.
Mhm.
Like he talked about like Dead Mall was part of the ultimate, or like you know, stuff like that, or Cinema of the Dead. Like he said that that stuff was all in the ultimate, but down the road, you know, as I wrote more of the narrative, you know, it didn't align, so I had to go back and change that up a little bit. But really, it was just I think I just like trimmed the audio, something like. But Dead Mall is definitely not in the ultimate.
Mm-hmm. No, because I remember kind of being there when I think I was there when you were considering like changing the narrative a bit. And that's when I kind of snuck myself in there. I was like, what if Evil Dead and Army of Darkness were in the ultimate? I
Mhm.
feel really bad cuz you have managed to put Evil Dead and Army of Darkness references in your maps. And I've been trying my fucking hardest to at least get one ultimate reference in my map, but I haven't released any. So,
What you need is like a glowing white mirror, something like that. That's
mm,
just faintly playing like a deranged version of Claire de Lune. I think that's like icing on the cake for like it's so funny to think like I watched a playthrough of the Terrifier map by I think his name is Slip. That's what I have him as on Discord. He uploaded a playthrough of the Terrifier map and he was talking so much about my style of maps and he talked about like Claire de Lune is like a usual in my map and I'm like,
mhm.
"Yes. I want to be that guy that's known for that thing, you know?"
I just remember picking up the boomstick in the conclusion too, and I was like, okay, we've made it. Evil Dead is
Yep.
now a part of MJ's universe, the magnum opus. And then I think you guys were watching me, you and Fnatic were watching me play Escape the Evil Within. And like a bunch,
Mhm.
you two are a bunch of assholes. You were like laughing at me as I struggled to solve the Easter egg. But I think I solved the Evil Dead Easter egg in that map, and then Ash's hand comes out and gives you the boomstick. And I can't express the gratitude and happiness when that Easter egg was in there. And I have an
Right.
idea of how I'm going to repay the favor in Army of Darkness. I don't want to say too much on the pod, or to your face,
Mhm.
you little
Yeah.
gremlin. You, I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep.
don't tell me, don't tell me. I wanna be surprised.
I'm gonna keep that to myself. But I hope I hope what I have is gonna be sufficient enough. But let's stop
I'm
talking
sure it
about
will
me. I'm
be.
taking up too much time.
No, 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 please.
No, I want to go back to kind of like the Labyrinth stories. So chapter 1 being Labyrinth, and then chapter 2 being Resume Carnage, chapter 3 being Dead
Mhm.
Mall. Do you think
Right.
there's going to be a chapter 4, or is Dead Mall going to be the conclusion of all this?
The conclusion, but there's already one of the conclusion. There's
I thought
actually
I
2
thought
of
I
the
was being a
conclusion.
little clever, dropping a little little reference in there.
This you know what's crazy? Not to get too sidetracked, but, like, anytime somebody says, "In conclusion," and I'm like, "Yes? What about it?"
I don't want to get like too sidetracked as well, but anytime someone says the ultimate, I
Uh-huh. Oh
immediately
my
think of
god.
you. I'm like ultimate.
You know what's crazy? I see literally the words "the ultimate" everywhere. You know, whether it's like I took a picture and I think I posted this on Twitter quite a while ago. This was when I was like really getting into like maybe like the beginning meat and potatoes of like the storyline where I was starting to build it all together. I think we went to Dairy Queen and on the ice cream cone, like the you know, like the little paper that's on there, I
Hmm.
think it said the ultimate ice cream or I don't know, something like that, but it said the ultimate. I was like, "What? This is so cool." Not that it's so cool. That's so cringy to say, but like, you know, I'm like, "Look, Leo points finger at TV screen moment, you know?"
Yeah, yeah.
I guess really I don't want to say no. I'll say that
Hmm.
because I do intend to slow down everything. This year I'm gonna kind of step back from some things. I my initial plan was retiring, deleting the mod tools and everything and stepping away. But like let's be real. I don't want to say that and then have a bunch of inspiration and then drop maps and then people be like, you said you were, you know, something like that." But I'm gonna be real, like the more people play things that I release and talk about, especially when people like gas me up and tell me like how good I am and how clever I am and things like that. I'm like, oh, I want to do this map. I'm gonna do that map. I'm gonna drop it at this point. I just get huge bursts of inspiration at very, very random times,
Yeah, yeah.
and it just kind of comes to me. And when something comes to me that I need to express creativity, it just has to come out.
Hmm.
So, a chapter 4, I don't want to promise it, but that's all I can say.
If the time is right,
Yeah.
maybe we could possibly, in the distant future, maybe perchance, get a chapter 4 confirmed 100% is what I'm hearing, right?
Maybe. Maybe. To be real, the real chapter 4 is Storage of the Dead. So there you go. You already got chapter 4. You're welcome.
Chapter 4 is
You
already
got
out.
chapter 4 before chapter 3. Really, that map was supposed to be like store. I don't know if I said it. Storage of the Dead is supposed to be the crossing point between the Ultimate storyline and let's just call it the Elevation storyline, because all of this is what I've technically called it, and like the Labyrinth, Resume Carnage, Dead Mall story. I called it Elevation because it has a lot to do with elevators for some reason. Storage of the Dead was meant to be the crossing point between the two, but really it's just because um it the Ultimus characters are in the same map as one of the people that you play as in Dead Mall. This is the guy that is trapped in the elevator in Labyrinth, right?
Mhm.
So that's kind of like your crossing point between the storylines. But it's just kind of up in the air where it goes from there, I suppose.
Okay, well, I'm excited. I'm excited. I want to see how the story goes. I'm very anticipating eagerly the release of Dead Mall, but I guess everybody's gonna have to wait for that. Thanks a lot, MJ, building up my hopes and excitement, my dreams.
Let me just say something else about Dead Mall. Not that anything else in the rest of the podcast can't touch on Dead Mall or anything like that, but something I want to gas up Fnatic
Mm.
because he gassed me up in the other one. Let's be real. He gave me a lot of praise. I want, not even if he didn't, I want to talk about Fnatic just for a second. Fnatic has been my absolute savior for anything that I'm needing help with scripting wise. Anything that I'm like, Fnatic, please. I know you're about to go to Disney World, but please, I want to drop this map like right now. um, he has come in and a map that's been in the progress for 9 years. He is working side by side with me, and he's very much been very patient with me, and talking back and forth with him about like my ideas for the map and just what needs to happen and what I want to happen, and even taking in like I love his opinions.
Mhm.
He's such a great guy, not just as a friend, but like being so helpful and being there for me. And he's working side by side with me with Dead Mall right now. Yeah, at this very second, he's working on Dead. No, I'm kidding. Um, and he's picking up where things were left off with many people of the past,
Mhm.
that many people who have worked with me with Dead Mall, but he's kind of picking up the pieces and he's making it, oh, so much better. Like the plans for this map, it just makes me like shake. It, the things that we've talked about, the things that are physically happening right now, the things that are going to happen are going to blow people's minds.
Ooh.
Dead Mall, it's not just a map, it's an experience, my guy.
Dead Mall's a
I want you to feel
lifestyle.
excited.
I am, dude. Fuck.
Yes.
God damn. Fuck you. Now I'm fucking. I don't want the map to come out
I want
tomorrow.
this to be. I know. Well, guess what? It's coming tomorrow because no, tomorrow never comes.
Well, I could toot your horn if you'd like. I mean, fuck, I'll do it. I will. If we're glazing Fnatic, let me glaze you, dude. Like, god damn. I am. I don't know. I've seen a little bit more than most people when it comes to Dead Mall, and even then, I haven't. I feel like I've just scratched the surface. And anytime I fucking ask about it, I always get these coy answers. But I don't know, I'm fucking over the moon about it because I see how passionate you are with all the maps you've done before, and I see the passion when you're actually making the map. And fuck, it's like, damn. The best way I could describe it is I want to fucking play it right now. Like, but
me too. And like, if I cannot wait. Like, if I could do this full time and just work on Dead Mall 24/7, I would 100% do this until it got finished, But unfortunately, how life is, sometimes you gotta make some bread. And the unfortunate part, you don't make a whole lot of money off of something like this.
Well,
If any,
you could just do what
really.
Danny did. You could scam the whole community. I think that would,
Oh.
you could do that. Set up a Patreon, announce that you're remaking Transit or something like that, and just scam everybody. I mean,
Is this making it into the podcast?
yeah, of course it is.
Oh my god. No comment.
Do we have a Danny Defender in the podcast right now? Are you not about to scam everybody in the community with a Patreon?
No Patreons.
with 10 tiers for $600? Are you not doing that?
No, I'm not.
No.
I think the most things that I had something like that was like a coffee, but it was like a one-time thing. And anytime I've ever been like, hey, here's some rewards, something that you could do, was like a one-time thing. Like if you were a donor of X amount of dollars or or whatever, you would have a exclusive thing within that specific map, that was upcoming, whichever that I was saying that the rewards were for. But like I said, that was a one-time payment, not reoccurring or anything like that, because I'd hate to sell early access or anything and just the map just never come out. like what if I like sold early access to a Flipside 2 and it's just like a box map and it's just never gonna get worked on.
No, yeah, there's a whole give and take with Patreons. I feel like I respect people who have Patreons. Like a lot of people who I look up to, they have them, but at the same time, it's when it's abused where I draw the line. Like I think Zella and Dobby caught a bit of flack for having Patreon and early access, but that wasn't, in my opinion, too much of an issue because they were actively developing on the map, and it wasn't like they abandoned everybody for 2 months like Danny did, and then make a fake account and keep Water Park in development for 4 years to save every fucking penny. It's a very I wouldn't mind having a Patreon. My only thing is that I work slow as shit, and I'm not always mapping one particular thing. So it's like, I don't know, I'd feel bad if like someone gave me $5 and they're like, this is a monthly thing, I expect you to deliver my fucking map. I'm like, oh, like I don't mind like YouTube donations when I'm streaming, but I feel like a Patreon would, for me, I feel like I just couldn't do it because I'm a lazy son of a bitch.
I'm too secretive about everything that I'm doing, whether it be
Mm.
like what's in the map specifically or how the map even looks. Especially like anything with the Easter eggs or something like that. I could never like live stream it, like working on anything.
Mhm.
Nor could I share anything like anything on a Patreon, like exclusive access. No, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Because I want people to experience everything like when it's out, and then I can talk about behind the scenes, like after like Easter eggs have been found, things like that. But beforehand, nah, that's not something I can probably ever do.
Mhm. Well, since we already announced it last podcast that Fnatic and I are working on Point of Contact, without giving anything away, there are other things that we are working on in relation to that map that we will, I don't think, ever talk about until the map releases. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that pretty much never be talked about until it's actually released. And I feel like it's cool to have like these kind of like Patreon, early access and stuff like that. But the thing with me is I kind of don't want you playing my map because it's broken. Right? Like I think if it was in a
Mhm.
playable state, like I wouldn't mind people hopping on and testing it out, making sure everything worked correctly. But like I know what's roughly broken in the current builds of my map, and I don't want to share it because it's too early. A lot of stuff can change.
Yeah. Like with a lot of early access maps that I've played, unfortunately, when I play the early access, I just kind of like I'm not, like crazy like jumping on it like as soon as the actual release, even when it comes with the Easter eggs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
In the final release, I'm not like crazy like jumping on there. I just kind of like, oh yeah, that's cool that came out. But I think I can wait a little bit because I played it not long ago,
Yeah.
so I'm not super eager on replaying the same map that I played, just even if it was just a few months ago. Maybe I'm just weird like that.
Well, it's kind of a mixed thing. I haven't played too many early access maps. I think the main one I played was Die Rise, and I played it
Mhm.
early access and I was loving it. And then when the map fully released, like I was, day one on that. I I haven't really like gone and sought out like early access for maps unless like somebody I'm friends with is like, hey, do you want to play test this? Then that's most of the time I'll get quote unquote early access, trying to break a map to see
Mhm.
what one dev could fix.
God forbid a map that we put 100+ hours into makes like $20.
Yeah, I want to say your maps are very visually distinct. I don't think one map looks the same as another. And even when you have maps that are like the conclusion and the conclusion 2, which are sequels, they feel very different. How do you go about choosing like visual themes and atmospheres for your map?
So really it can come down to like what's going on in the map. The first conclusion was very much meant to be it was a Zork styled thing where it was like, this is gonna sound so weird when I'm like references as far as like a design look, because obviously you can't see anything. There's nothing in Zork because it's a typing adventure where it's like
Oh,
do you know the terminal that was in Black Ops 1?
yeah.
It's a like you type like turn right, turn left, something like that, and it'll say you turned right, and in front of you is the keeper's head on the ground, or something crazy like that.
Mhm.
I did like a whole like YouTube little series thing based on that. So, but I say all of that to say that the map was meant to look just about the same, as much as it's meant to look like there's a light that's hanging above you. It's a very dimly lit hallway, and maybe every now and then you'll see something around you, but it's meant to be roughly looking exactly the same
Mhm.
throughout the entirety of the conclusion one. Now, the Pap Room, I will say, was straight out of concept art from the actual Evil Within. Um, so really, it just kind of like when you go to make a map, you kind of like visualize what you want out of it.
Mhm.
Terrifier also was a big one because literally the first thing I did, other than like putting him in there like as the clown round, like like the special rounds, my idea was I think it would be a really cool thing to have a filter where it focuses only on the colors red, white, and black.
Mm.
And that was the first thing I made before anything in the map, actually. And I was like, I know I want to make this like dark and gritty looking and a little bit bloody. And I think it turned out just like it. And it's almost like a mixture of the idea of what conclusion was. I was really thinking that this was going to be something like if you like conclusion, you're going to like the Terrifier map.
Mhm.
And something like conclusion 2, that was very much to kind of like capture the essence of the level design from the actual Evil Within games. So it was more taken on that route to look more like that atmospheres, or those atmospheres, I mean, rather than specifically anything that, like I've done, like the grittiness of, like Conclusion 1. It was kind of like its own thing, but meant to be Evil Within-ified, I suppose.
Mhm. I find in your maps there's definitely that balance between these like tight spaces and depending on the map, these haunting environments, and yet still everything is fairly easy to see and fairly easy to navigate through. Do you find that there's a balance between creating these open areas and tight spaces within a map?
So something like Labyrinth, in the center of the maze, you have this big area where it's like you can run around, or if you wanted to, you can teleport out of there. So it's like a easy escape. But all of I almost said highways, all of the hallway type areas, like the longer portions of the maze, is pretty tight knit. Like if a zombie's coming straight down the maze, like hallway thing. I guess we'll call it a hallway for Labyrinth or something.
Mhm.
And you're going, towards them, you're not gonna easily be able to kind of like run around them because like Labyrinth's design is a little bit closer made compared to like any of the other mazes. A lot of the other ones are more open ended, and this is because I got a lot of complaints actually, like that people were just dying, and I probably heard the same thing back on World at War actually, that the hallways just wasn't wide enough in Labyrinth, and you just couldn't get around the zombies. You just kind of didn't have any luck. Like you just either just had to kill the zombie or you're gonna get killed.
Mhm. Another thing that I notice in your mapping, which I feel goes unnoticed by a large majority of players, is the sound design. Especially when I was playing Terrifier, a work of art, and Escape the Evil Within. I found the
Hmm.
sounds to be haunting in a good way. Like I'm just in these
Hmm.
really tight, creepy environments, and you're hearing weird ass sounds, or you press on Krusty the Clown and he makes a little voice line or something like that. How is the process with like figuring out the correct way to make a map sound?
So sound design with these maps is pretty crucial because especially like with horror, everything is critical because you want the right sounds in the right spots and you want them at the right volume at the right times. You don't want to be that guy that's like it's incredibly loud, just like a sound effect that's just kind of like thrown in there and it's like a really loud screaming thing. you don't want that, but and then the ambience. So you got to build your ambience as well. There's tons and tons and tons of tracks out there that you can make loop, and you can just have that slightly playing underneath your sounds, and whether it be just a creepy ambience that's like,
Mm,
you know, just a building sound of just like I'm gonna use conclusion one as a big example because ambience was huge for that map for me. I think that's where I really was like focusing on like the building of just the things that you would hear. And
mm,
again, that goes back to the Zork thing. And I know Zork, you don't hear anything and you don't see anything because it's a typing adventure. But the thing about Zork is everything that you do or every place that you go, it's going to be very descriptive. So everywhere that I went to in that maze in conclusion one, I wanted it to be like, so if I'm standing here, what am I hearing? What am I seeing? Everything like that.
mm,
So if you're standing at one spot and you hear the faint flickering of the light above your head. You hear the faint flickering, and maybe you hear the steam from the pipes just flowing out, just very very heavily right beside you.
mm.
But underneath all of that, you hear maybe the footsteps of the keeper. Then you have your just base ambience, and just creating a horror atmosphere is, I guess for me, fairly easier than most things, actually, which is why like I love when I'm able to tackle like the horror vibe, which is I guess most of zombies, thankfully. Sound design is like awesome to work on. I love being able to pick out different sounds because it's like I can stay up late at night and just I have like a sound in my mind, and I would just be going through several different websites, several different YouTube videos and stuff, just looking for the perfect sound effect to play that's just in my mind. In Terrifier, the bucket head that you place down and you kill zombies around it and you fill it up with
Mhm.
blood. There is 3 stages of the blood filling for that, and I wanted a sound cue for each of the stages. When you hit those stages and it filled up with a little bit of blood, I just had a specific kind of like a sound in my head that I took days like not finding. Well, obviously I was doing others. I wasn't just searching for the particular sound during days, but it took days for me to find the actual right sound that I was looking for. And the only thing I could like verbally describe it as that I was thinking of was like a water droplet or like a plop sound, like like if you were like throwing something into like a bucket of water or
Mhm.
something like that. Like that's what I was like thinking. And eventually I think I finally found like it was just like something falling into water. And in that same thing, I think they had several different variations, and thankfully, some of the variations was like an increasing sound of where it was like a little bit different each time. So thankfully, that worked out to my advantage.
Mhm. I mean, sound is like one of the most overlooked things in pretty much all forms of media. Like, I think even music writing, people don't fully appreciate the sounds that go into like these musicscapes. Like, if you listen to like an orchestra, some people might think it sounds nice, but even then, you're not listening to each individual trumpet playing. It's so overlooked, and I think the only other person who really fucks with sound as much as you do is like Vertigo. He's
Mhm.
such a brilliant mapper when it comes to sound design and figuring out what sounds natural, getting guns sounding right, and everything like that. So to have your insight on how
Mhm.
just like simple like a bucket step for an Easter egg, how much thought you put into the sound of that. I think it's super interesting. How do you think your mapping has evolved since you first started?
Probably not for the best. I'll be totally honest because, let's be real, look at my maps. The best thing I can do is mazes, and, it's pretty blocky, but the good thing about that is with not incredibly detailed, maps such as the amazing let's be real, the amazing throwing mold, his amazing detail
No.
in his maps. I cannot ever foresee having that much detail in my maps, unfortunately. I'm just not incredibly that skilled with mapping. I will say my expertise is probably just the I guess like you said the sound design or like the just the ideas and the concept of like how I want things to do, not necessarily the map itself. Trust me, if I had your skills and I was able to do Dead Mall probably in your style, man, Dead Mall would look like gorgeous.
Yeah, well then
Now, granted,
Dead Mall would
you
come out
know,
in like 20 years. If you if you went through my style, you'd
nah.
never make a map again. It's
Buddy, like I've watched your dev streams. You've gotten more, like so much more, like accomplished in just
stop it.
your like dev streams. And like compared to me reprobing the mall, it's quite a process. But I will say things improve over time. I don't want to say like I'm completely useless when it comes to things like that. Mapping's not my like expertise, but looking back, I would have never been able to make something like Conclusion 2 back on like World at War or even like when I started the tools. That's not something I would have fathomed because thankfully mazes are my thing and mazes are so easy to make. I could pump out a million different maze maps just if I wanted to. But thankfully, I use the maze thing as a cop out because I'm not able to make incredibly detailed maps. I am able to make a maze though.
It's not always about detail. I think out of almost any, you know, current dev, your maps have the most unique aesthetics to them. Like you show me any particular map that you've made, even if I haven't played it, I could definitely point out, oh yes, this is an MJPW map. The way you style maps, the way the light and environment just makes everything. I don't know. I'm gonna use a filmmaking word. The mise en scène of your maps.
Oh,
It's
buddy.
just the mise en scène. It's just you have such a unique style that I mean, yeah, if you want to take 6 years and do a mold map, by all means, take your time. It might look 10% better, but you crank out such unique maps and they're so varied and everything is just so amazing. I don't know how else to put it.
I appreciate the glazing.
It's just a glaze
But
fest,
let's
this
be real.
podcast.
Let's be real. I want to glaze up you a little bit.
No, no, stop. I'm gonna shut that
You're
down.
no, no,
No,
no.
I'm shutting this
No, no,
down.
no, no, no. Don't edit me out either. Your detail for your maps are it's just so precise and so incredibly detailed
Oh,
for
it's really
anything that you
not.
touch.
It's really
It
not.
really, really is though. Look, I want to tell you, I want to talk about something. So way back before, I think after the point when I think I like reached out and said like, "Hey, I love Evil Dead. I'm so happy that you was making this," or something along those lines. I was talking with Fnatic every now and then at that point, and he was telling me like how detailed like like the documents. I know y'all pulled this up in the last podcast. he was telling me like how ambitious your ideas and stuff like that was, and the detail and the like the desires for each of the things, and he was like, just kind of like telling me about everything about what's going on, and not like the details of you know
Yeah, he was just glazing, wasn't
yeah, but for good reasons. And I was like, oh man, like look at the detail of his map work. Oh my god. And I was like, how many maps does he have out now? And then I was like shocked to see that Evil Dead was your first map that was released. Are you kidding me?
he?
Like like buddy, Labyrinth has got like 3 polygons. But yeah, like I remember back in the days where he was like, like talking about Evil Dead, and like just the ambition of all of the ideas and things that you just had in mind, and I was just like in awe because Evil Dead was your first published map, and I was like, that's insane. Like this incredible level of detail is his first map. I was like, he went under a different alias or something, I bet. I'm pretty sure I said that to Fnatic.
Yeah, my original alias was a MJPW.
No. No, well, yeah, and you made such maps as Labyrinth.
And Avengers Extinction and Cheese Cube and Townhouse Z. I mean, yeah, I've got one map, but you have like fucking you have so many classics. This podcast has become such a glaze fest. I should have known I bring fucking Mr. Well Groomed over here that he's gonna be glazing all over the place. You're you're
Hey,
you're
but like
you're too nice of a guy, motherfucker.
I I try, but like your drive, both of your drives, and I just when I hear your passions for the things that you aim for, whether it be customs or just, what you want to do in life, it's inspiring, just sitting back and I'm like, man, my friends are great. My friends are talented.
Well, this got fucking emotional. God damn it. Fuck you, man.
Aw,
Suck my
aw.
balls, dude.
No.
So, as the podcast comes to a close, I do want to ask you a few more questions. One of them being about time warp.
Yes, Time Warp was mine and it was wrongfully stolen. And everybody hates it now because it's in every single box map. So, going back to the history really quick of Time Warp. Time Warp was originally designed for Labyrinth V2 on World at War. And rightfully so for it to be in a map like this, because this isn't a map, like we talked about earlier, that this is a map that if a zombie is coming your way, you have a slight chance to maybe get around it, but your better chance of surviving is just killing the zombie if you can. If not, you're probably gonna die. The best solution for that was time warp, and I came up with the concept of it. And you're probably thinking, well, it's just slowing down the zombies. No, 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 no. I I've talked with Fnatic and Throwing Mold about this. I don't know how many times, and every single time we see it in a map that we're playing, I gotta talk about it.
He
But
gets into a conniption fit every time he sees time warp.
yes, yes, because it's like it got just like ripped from me. And I'll say it every time. But okay, so the concept, if you don't know, it's more than just slowing down the zombies. It's meant to be also sending you into a black and white mode. So your vision is going to be black and white. Also, your screen will shake before and after you enter time warp, and you also hear a ticking sound while it's active. Kind of like when you have insta kill active or maybe double points, you hear like a weird like pulsating breathing or some kind of sound. Um but that's how time warp is supposed to work. However, when it got ripped from me or swept from under me or whatever. It's just slowing down the zombies. And since it got put out there in like in the the asset packs and everything like that, that's totally fine. But it's it kind of I don't want to be that guy that's like, look at me, I did the thing, but hey, look at me, I did the thing. I just wanted to say, like, yeah, it just unfortunately, but hey, yeah, I'm the guy that made Time Warp. You don't know that, but now you do.
Well, I have one final question before we head out. I wanna ask you if there's any advice you can give to new mappers, new scripters, just people coming into the customs community and wanting to start out. Is there anything you would give as advice to help new creators get started?
What I want to say, I want you to envision your ideas, jot it down in your notes app, however you want to kind of like collaborate your ideas of what you want to do. Even if you don't want to do that, just pick up the tools, even if it's not the tools, you know. I guess this can be reference to a lot of things. Just express your creativity, you know. This is such a great outlet to be able to express ourselves creatively. I've probably said that a few times within this. It's such a great way to be able to express ourselves. And if you want to take that leap, like even if you remotely feel just a little bit of interest, if you have the ability to, download the tools, man. It's free as long as you have Black Ops 3, I suppose. Um it's free to get on there. Um, it's not a whole lot of harm. Thankfully, at this point, there's so many tutorials to just kind of get the basic knowledge on how to do some of the things or how to do a lot of things, really. Just just try. Because the worst thing that you can do is not try. And even if you aren't totally able to get that right away, I said this the other day to Fnatic and Throwing Mold. You gotta make a few labyrinths before you make a dead mall. And I think you can do it. There's always going to be people who are out there that will doubt people's abilities, who will try to put somebody down. But like I said, the worst thing that you can do is just not try. You may fail, but just try.
Very powerful, MJ. That was really good. Straight out of him up like a movie. God damn.
Yeah. I said something really good on a separate podcast type thing. I really wished I can remember what I said on there, but it's the same kind of message. You just got to jump in, man. You got to find your outlet and you just do it. Of course, we're going to modify zombies and make zombies our own in our own take,
Yeah.
if you will.
No,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, finding your own style, coming up with ideas that you think are unique to zombies and that you have a vision for, being a creator of sorts. I mean, it's a distinct vision and it's what you want to make, and at the end of the day, it's fun. If you have fun doing it and if people have fun playing it, I mean, that's the best combo. And trying, especially. Like you said, MJ, just like putting one foot out and just fucking giving it an attempt. I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you. I hope to see you on the future, or I hope to see you in the future when Deadmau5
Yeah.
releases.
I think I haven't talked to you about this. I haven't talked to Fnatic about this, but you know what would be cool if the three of us was on an episode one day in the future.
That'd be a fun episode. Maybe we'll do it when a collab map comes out and we could just glaze it. It'd just be a bigger glaze fest than this is.
Oh yeah, we'll just be like, it'd just be in a circle, if you will. I don't want to. You can just visualize it, but yeah. Thank you so much for having me, man. Like this is, I've been ever since the first episode, I've been like, please have me on, please have me on, please have me on. When am I getting on?
I know.
Like
I've
every
been
2
meaning
days.
to get you on. You would have been on a lot sooner, but I am just a lazy fuck who who
No, no,
doesn't have a lot of
no.
free
It's
time.
scheduled. It's scheduled, you know.
Well,
It's all over the place.
well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day.